All right. Okay, YouTube is running. Hey, YouTube. Hey, Facebook. Hope you're doing very, very well. Welcome to another episode of Tuesday Talks. This is episode number 4, if I'm not mistaken. If you're new to this segment on the Facebook group, the Language Learning Nerds Facebook group, or of course on YouTube here, if you're new to it, basically this is a weekly segment that I'm testing out for a little while, where I answer a topic that you guys voted on in terms of language learning. So this week's topic that was voted in was all about remembering new vocabulary. If you're not aware of how you can vote on the topic, it's pretty straightforward. Every single Monday in the Language Learning Nerds Facebook group, we post a poll. There's an individual who helps with some social media management for me, and so he runs the Calgary Language Nerds Facebook page. He posts a poll every single Monday in our Language Learning Nerds Facebook group. People vote on the poll, and then the top results of the poll essentially get a video talking about the topic that was voted on. And so as I said before, today's topic is tips to remember and learn and remember new vocabulary. So let's jump into it. I think the first thing that comes to mind for me when we're discussing this topic of vocabulary is the fact that it typically takes a long time for vocabulary to go from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. I think sometimes people get frustrated that it's taking them a long time to remember new words. They learn something and they consistently forget it, and it feels frustrating. But understand that that is natural, and it's a normal part. It's a normal part of the progress of the process. It's super normal for you to forget a single word like 9 times. That is really, really normal. So I think when we're talking about vocabulary, expectations is the first thing that we should be talking about. Make sure you set reasonable, realistic expectations. Expect yourself to forget new words that you learn multiple times, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Expect that to happen, because for a lot of new words that you're learning, that will happen. Literally, I kid you not, I've been taking, here's a great example of this. I've been taking some classes, some Mandarin private classes online, and I've been taking 2 lessons a week for the past, I want to say 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. And in the very first class, one of the first words I learned was how to say a computer screen, like a laptop screen. And I wanted to learn it because at my work, I often want to say things like, oh, let me share my screen with you, or hey, I can't see your screen, or things of that nature, or oh, your screen share is frozen. So I wanted to know how to say screen. And I learned it. One of the first words I learned 3 weeks ago. To this day, I keep forgetting how to say the word. I've probably been told 8 times over the past 3 weeks, and that word is just not sticking. So that happens, and that's okay. And I want you to ensure that you do not beat yourself up per se when it comes to that. Thing number 2, I think it's important for you to do both input and output styles of practice. What does this mean? Well, when you learn a new word, I think it's important for you to do some speaking practice with the word. I think it's important for you to do some writing practice with that word. And at the same time, I think it's important for you to whenever possible, try to do some reading where you see that word. Try to do some listening where you come across that word. Try to get a blend of all 4 elements of language learning: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So let me go a little bit deeper and give some more specifics on this. On the listening side, I think it's easiest to practice listening with new words by finding a video that is slightly above your level, and you practice trying to understand that video. Look up the new words, re-listen to the video, and once you're able to more or less actually understand that video, move on to another video within the same subject matter. So let's say you watched a video about nutrition, right? You looked up a lot of the nutrition words, you can understand most of that video now that you watched. Go find another nutrition video because that other nutrition video that you have is going to use a lot of the same words and terminology as the first video that you watched. And so that's going to give you a second opportunity to practice hearing those words that you heard in video number 1, right? And it gives your brain the chance to practice and really see, can you recognize those new words in that new video that you watched? If you want to practice writing with new words, it's super straightforward. I recommend you do some daily journaling or regular journaling. If you're ever wondering what to journal about, simply go onto Google and search simple journal topics or simple writing topics for children. I usually tell people to look to search for journaling topics designed for children. That way, even if you're not super advanced in the language, you're still able to write. Because when you look at journaling topics for children, they're often really simple. It's like, my favorite food, what I like to do in my free time. When you search journal topics in general, you get all sorts of complicated things. You get, all sorts of very complex topics that might be well beyond your level. So that's a great way to practice writing. I think a lot of people, when it comes to vocabulary, what they end up doing is they sit there and they just write the new words over and over. They literally take like a piece of paper, and let's say they learn the word like, I don't know, like paper. They'll be like, paper, paper, and they just write paper a bunch of different times. Or maybe they try to do quizzes, like vocab quizzes and flashcards and things of that nature. And that's their version of practice. Well, that's great, that's fine. But I also want you to write some real journal entries and incorporate those new words into your journals. Don't just do flashcards. Don't just do rote writing practice where you're printing the same words over and over. Don't just do that. Write some journal entries. You can do this in a spoken format as well. Create an audio journal for yourself. So take out your phone. Most phones, or all phones, have like have an audio journal function. I have an audio recording function. Record yourself just like when you write journals. Do some spoken journals, some audio journals instead of written journals. That will also be very, very effective. And incorporate the new words you've been learning into that audio journal. If you have a speaking partner, maybe it's a private tutor, maybe it's a language exchange partner, you can also challenge yourself to incorporate some of the new words that you're learning in those conversations and push yourself to try using them. I personally am a big fan. This is another great way to practice vocabulary. I'm a really big fan of trying to create a real life scenario in your life where you have to actually use the target language and you have to use a very specific set of vocabulary. So I'll give you a real life example for me. I teach various languages, and I have found certain students who are Mandarin speaking students. And so what I've done is, right now I'm taking some Mandarin lessons where I'm learning a whole bunch of terms and vocabulary and phrases that are in relation to my work. And then I now get to use these phrases. When I learn them, I can immediately start using them at work, and I can start using them with real people in real situations. And I think for vocabulary to really stick, by the way, Cole, hi Lolly in the chat, YouTube chat. Cole, I see your question in the chat. I'm going to get to that in just a second. I think one thing that's really key when it comes to remembering vocabulary and really having it sink into your mind, what's super duper important is to make it as real as possible, to make it as applicable and not theoretical. Make it super applicable. There we go, applicable. And don't make it super theoretical. And I think a lot of people deal mostly in theory, and they don't deal much with real hands-on practical applications. They don't do that very often, right? I try and put myself in positions where I really have to use my target languages, and that helps me quite a bit. So I encourage you to find whatever ways you can to put yourself in situations where you have to use your target languages, because it makes strong neural connections in your mind with new vocabulary, and it'll help you really remember them and use them reasonably naturally. I think learning and remembering vocabulary is not a simple matter of just reviewing a bunch of times and doing a bunch of flashcards and taking a bunch of classes and testing yourself over and over, taking a bunch of quizzes. All those kinds of strategies really help. They really do. But I don't think it's the be all end all solution at the end of the day. I think it's part of the solution, not the entire solution. Now, let's go to Cole's question. So for those of you who don't see Cole's question, Cole is asking, do you use Anki? And if not, why not? So Anki, for those of you who don't know what Anki is, or Anki, you don't really know the right way to pronounce it. But if you haven't heard of it before, it's a flashcard application. It's an application where you make your own flashcards. So you type in, you make your own. If you haven't used flashcards before, Google what a flashcard is. You make your own flashcards, right? And then you can review the flashcards directly on your phone. Anki also has an extra algorithm. That in the background where it actually tracks the words that you don't remember. So the words that are harder for you, it has a way of tracking that in the background, and it makes you review those words more frequently. And that way, it's the theory behind it is that you're reviewing, essentially you're reviewing words that you're less familiar with more frequently. And the words that are easier for you, you're reviewing them. Harder words you're reviewing more frequently. Easier words you're reviewing less frequently. And that's kind of the general premise, I suppose. And it's a little bit more complex than that. You can Google spaced repetition. Google SRS, spaced repetition systems, I believe it stands for. Google that and it'll tell you all about it, but that's a very simplified version of it. I am a fan of Anki. I think I'm a big fan of it. I don't personally use it a lot right now, but I definitely recommend people to use it. But I just want to stress that Anki alone is not going to be the thing that automatically becomes an unlock where remembering words becomes easy. Right? There's a lot of tools I can give you. Anki is a tool. Quizlet is another tool that people really, really like. I think, all these tools, like even you writing things, like these are all tools, right? But I think at the end of the day, you have to do, I think at the end of the day, in my perspective, you have to try both using the words in a written and or spoken context as often as you can. And then you also have to try getting input with those words as often as you can in real life videos, in books, in texts, in written paragraphs online. Heck, even in textbooks, for crying out loud. One of the best things about a Chinese textbook, where's my Mandarin textbook? Is it here? It's not here, it's upstairs. I've got a Mandarin book series, and like what's in the textbooks, what they do is when you've learned a word in chapter 1, the words you learned will then be used in chapter 2, and they use them throughout because you're consistently seeing them in different forms and different contexts and different articles and texts, right? And that'll really help you because you keep seeing the same things, but in different contexts. I think that can really help. Lucas is asking here in the YouTube chat, he's saying, don't you think the best way to remember vocabulary is to see the words, to see the words in a context by creating, I don't know what that means, by creating custom with the vocabulary and automatically remember. I see. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think context is really key. Having it in context is a big, big thing. Absolutely. I absolutely agree. Context is a big thing. Yep, I agree. 100%. 100%. One perhaps final thing I'll say on remembering vocabulary, and this is definitely something that I think it's only going to land with a small percentage of people watching. I'm not sure how practical this will be for everyone, but I think it will help some of you. You want to put your brain in, how do I say this? I've never tried to express this before. It's a new thought that occurred to me this morning. You want to put your brain in the target language mode. So what does this mean? You want let me give you the story of where this comes from. I had a Spanish class this morning. I'm super fluent in Spanish, but I'm taking some classes because you always need to, like, for me, I want to have a near native level of fluency in the languages that I learn. And in order to have near native fluency, you always have to be doing something to try and get better. Like, you always have to, because otherwise you just start to slip. You start to slip a little bit, you lose your edge. And so right now I've got some extra time, so I'm taking a little bit of a couple of Spanish classes, or one Spanish class a week, and we're doing some just more advanced things. So we're watching a Netflix show, a movie right now. Sorry, Netflix movie. And I understand 95%. Like, it's not hard for me, but there are words here and there where I don't know, or I miss it, blah blah blah. And we're watching the scene, and this is like 3-4 minute scene where it's like pure Peruvian slang, 100% Peruvian slang. And they're using so much slang, and I've never heard a lot of these words before. And I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? I understand with context and everything what he's saying, but like, I don't know that word, or I don't know this particular word. Why did he say it like that? There's a couple little technical things. And we're watching this, and there's a point where I told my brain, like, the first 15 minutes was really hard. My brain was like, whoa, this is really difficult for me. And I remember there's a moment where I told my brain, we got to switch to Spanish mode. We've got to switch to Spanish mode here. Like, we're in English mode, and my brain, I'm just too slow. I'm not fully understanding everything that's happening. We need to switch to Spanish mode so that I'm able to understand this and keep up with what's happening. And the moment I was like, okay, brain, now we're Latino. I'm not Azren, a Canadian guy anymore. I'm Azren, the native Spanish speaker now. Now that's the brain mode I'm in. And the moment I had that mental switch, instantly it was a heck of a lot. It became way easier to understand, way easier to start following along with the series. And I've had this with a variety of languages. I've done this many, many times where there's this moment where you tell your brain, hey, it's time to switch. Normally you're in English mode. Now you are not an English speaker. Now you're a Spanish speaker, brain. Now you're a French speaker. Like, I tell myself, like, I remember this one time in Mandarin, one time I was in this like Mandarin class, and like my brain was just not, I felt so clunky and slow in Mandarin. I couldn't think of the words. I wasn't understanding everything. And I was like, Azren, remember when you were in Beijing? Remember when you were in Taiwan and nobody spoke English and all you were doing every day speaking in Mandarin? And remember how that felt? Remember how you felt like every day your brain was always in Mandarin mode? We need to go back to Mandarin mode here. And the second I had that thought of, okay, Mandarin mode, now you are a Chinese person. That's who you are. Go directly in Mandarin. That instantly would make it easier. So I think for a lot of people, it's difficult to really, really fully understand what that means, because maybe you haven't felt that before. But I suppose the most practical thing I could say, and hopefully this helps a certain percentage of you, is if you approach, once you've gone past, a percentage of you need to approach a language, and you need to pretend that you need to basically make your brain switch over and almost like act, almost be like an actor, where you're acting like you are someone who speaks that language as their first language. You're acting like it. You're trying to become that and really crawl into the skin of a native speaker and try your best to emulate that and imitate that and be that way. And for some of you, I think that'll help you a little bit. That mental imagery will help you for sure when it comes to speaking more fluently and even just incorporating new vocabulary. I really think it will. So Cole is asking, do you think your French or Spanish has gotten slightly worse over the past year with you being so busy and studying Chinese? No, not because of Mandarin, I wouldn't say, because even prior to Mandarin, no, I wouldn't say that it's gotten slightly worse because of Mandarin. I think it's gotten 2% worse. I think it's gotten like 0.2% worse for the past like 5 years. Every year it just gets 0.2% worse, 0.2% worse, 0.2% worse, 0.2% worse. Like, it's getting a little bit, where I'm still super comfortable and fluent, right? But I've just slowly kind of lost it, and I've moved more, like, I feel more like a super advanced speaker, where once upon a time I might have been like, I feel like a near native level speaker. And now it's like, I've gotten better because I'm taking some classes right now. I'm taking some French and Spanish classes to kind of brush up a little bit again and just kind of force my brain to go back into native speaker land and not super advanced land. If that makes sense? But I don't think it's because of Mandarin. I don't think it's because of Mandarin, no. I think it's because I just haven't actively, Spanish is a bit different because I used to actually work with someone who spoke Spanish, and like we only worked together in Spanish. That was like a super Spanish experience for me, and like it was really keeping me sharp on Spanish. But French, for example, oh, good Lord. Couldn't tell you the last time I've used French in a super practical context outside of teaching. Like I run events in French and stuff, but it's not the same. So yeah. Next question. Would you say your French or Spanish is stronger? They're pretty similar. Yeah, they're pretty similar. French and Spanish are super similar. Some days I might feel stronger in one over the other, but they're I'm super comfortable in both. Very, very comfortable in both. So, all right, let's wrap this video up here. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate it. Anything else I want to say? I don't think so. So let's finish this up here. Have a good rest of your day. We'll chat later. Bye-bye. YouTube, let's end you first. And now Facebook.